Hi, I'm Jeff, and this video is for anyone who's interested in traveling to South Texas to watch the launch of a SpaceX Starship rocket. My wife and I spent 4 days there last week watching the launch of the SpaceX Starship SN8, and we learned a lot of things, made some mistakes, met some great people, and I'm putting this video together to help people who may want to go in the future. So let's dive right into some tips. The first thing we want to talk about is, where do these launches take place? Looking here at the map, all of the SpaceX prototype launches are taking place currently and for the foreseeable future at their facility in Southeast Texas. So as we zoom in, you're going to notice that when I say Southeast Texas, I mean it. This is pretty much as far south and east as you can go in Texas without being in Mexico. So it's on the coast in a little area called Boca Chica. That's where the launch facilities are. And they're just north of the Rio Grande River, right out on the coast. So let's look at how you get there. We travel by air. If you live in Southeast Texas, obviously you could drive, or if you're willing to drive further, that's fine. We travel by air, and this was the first mistake we made. We just went to the internet, we found a flight, and it looked like it was the closest one, and we ended up flying into a little airport we had never heard of called Harlingen, Texas International Airport, and that is located on the map here. You see it, and that location is probably about an hour away from the launch site and about an hour or so away from where you want to watch all your launches from. So if I could do that again, and after speaking to some people at the launch site that we talked to who flew into other airports, I think the best bet to do is to fly into it looks like it's either a brand new airport or a newly renovated airport called Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport. It goes by the airport code BRO or BRO. And they are serviced by both United and American Airlines. And after the fact, we compared a flight from our location to Brownsville versus Harlingen, and it was actually a couple $100 cheaper. And when you get there, you're probably almost a half an hour closer to the launch location and a half an hour closer to where you want to watch the launch. So that airport is right here on the map, and all of the things you're going to want to do are over here on the coast. That trip from Brownsville over to where you're going to want to watch from is about 38 minutes versus, as I said, roughly maybe an hour or a little bit more from Harlingen. So that's my first tip: fly into Brownsville if you can. Okay, the next thing we should talk about is where you should stay. There's virtually no place to stay out near the actual launch site. So we're going to go into why later, but where you're going to want to stay is an area called South Padre Island, and that's up here where you see all these pins. We made the mistake of spending the first night at the Isla Grande Beach Resort, which is right on South Padre Island, kind of down close to where the viewing site is. It was horrible. It was dirty. It was old. It was clearly a spring break type of hotel. Maybe some people will like that. I didn't like it. My wife didn't like it. We moved out after the first night there, and we went north on the island to way up by the top of where they're currently developing this Courtyard by Marriott, brand new, beautiful hotel. We actually booked a room there at a little bit less than the price of the room that we had stayed at the Isla Beach Resort, and we loved it. We stayed there the rest of our trip. So that would be my recommendation on that. There are tons of other hotels along this strip, the South Padre Island. So if you have a particular hotel you're a member of, there's quite likely a hotel. There's some other great hotels up here at the north end. There was a Holiday Inn. There were some others that were very nice, but we particularly liked the Marriott. Now, the one disadvantage of the location we stayed was it is about 10 minutes further north on the island, which puts you about 10 minutes further away from the prime viewing location, but it's really not that bad, and especially if you plan ahead, that's not going to cause you any problems getting to the viewing location. I'll mention one other option here for those who might be interested. There is a resort here all the way down by the southern end of Padre Island called the Pearl South Padre Beachfront Resort. And the advantage it has is if you get a room on the south side of that tower, it's a tower resort, you can actually overlook the launch site from a high altitude if you get enough of a high floor. So I know there were some of the people who are deeply involved in YouTube channels for SpaceX who filmed from there, and it looked really good. We just decided to go all the way down to the southern tip to watch it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, let's talk about that now. Where do you want to watch the launch from? Let's scroll down a little bit, and I'll give you some more details on the actual launch site. There is only one road, Texas State Road 4, that leads into the actual launch site. And there's actually two SpaceX facilities down at the end of this road. One is the manufacturing and assembly facility where they put the rockets together and prepare them. And on the map, it's called the Control Center. And then about 2 miles further down that road, just away from the beach, is the actual SpaceX launch facility. This is where the Starship is launched from, and it's also where the Starship lands, if all goes well. This road, Texas State Road 4, is a long road, and there's not a whole lot on it for the last 14 or 15 miles. And one of the key elements you're going to want to know is when they shut this road down, which they do for any launch activity or wet dress rehearsals or static fires, they're going to lock this road down 14 or 15 miles away from the actual launch. So trying to go down this road to watch a launch is not going to work, and it's not going to give you an optimal viewing opportunity. So what you actually want to do is you want to stay on South Padre Island. You want to go to the very southern tip of South Padre Island, and down here is a place called Isla Blanca Park. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's this red pin. It is a county park operated by Cameron County Parks Department, and it's controlled access. So there is a gate there. It's only open during daylight hours. And another important tip to know, if you look on Google, if you look at the sign at the front of the park, it says that they open at 8 a.m. I will tell you now that on launch days, our experiences, every day that there was a launch or a possible launch or even a wet dress rehearsal, they open this park at 6 a.m. So if you want to get in there and get a good spot, you'll be there as close to 6 a.m. as you can. We showed up at 5:30 every day we were there. The 2 days that there was a potential launch opportunity, there was a line of cars waiting, maybe not a lot, maybe 10 cars waiting in line. So again, if you're really into it and you want to make sure you get a good spot, you'd want to get there early, even if the launch opportunity isn't until later in the day. Okay, a couple more tips on this Isla Blanca Park. As I said, it will open at 6 on launch days. You're going to have to pay $12 to get in. You can, if you're going to be there a couple of days and you know it or you suspect it, you can buy I believe it's a 5-day pass or possibly a 1-week pass for $30, which is worth it if you're going to be there more than 2 days. You can go in and out during the day. There's a little placard they give you to put on your dashboard, and that'll let you in and out. But you will need to pay that money. Now, if you don't want to pay that, or if you're coming from a very close location, you can walk in. And in fact, there's even a little parking lot just outside the gate right here that you can park your car for free and you can walk in. But it's a good walk. I had to walk it a couple times because we got there before the gate opened, and it's probably a half a mile walk down. So just keep that in mind. So however you get there, walking or driving, where you want to end up is down here at the bottom of this park, right on the channel, at a location called Cristo de los Pescaderos. There's a big statue there, and there's a sidewalk with a couple of picnic tables and some benches and things right along the channel, and in the parking lot there next to it, there's a little bait shop. So that's where you want to end up. Anywhere along that front is the best opportunity for viewing, because this spot looks south, directly south to the launch area, and that gap there between the viewing spot and the launch area is about 4 miles, 4.5 miles maybe. but it's uninterrupted. You can see the rocket all the way down to the ground basically because it's built up on a little bit of a promontory, and you can see the entire rocket, and then off to the right in your view you can see the assembly facilities, so you get a really good view of everything from about 4 miles out. Okay, so next let's talk about what you're going to want to bring with you, and we learned this lesson the hard way after sitting for about 12 hours out here the first day waiting for what ended up being a wet dress rehearsal. You're going to want to bring a couple of key items. One is you're going to want to bring sunscreen and an umbrella and a chair, because there's basically no shade on this area at all down here. So it was pretty warm, it got pretty sunny, we both got pretty tan over the 3 days, probably 36 hours total sitting out on this beach. So plan accordingly on that. The next thing you're going to want to bring is some drinks and some snacks, and maybe even prepared meals, sandwiches, things like that. There's not a lot of options around here for food. As I said, there's a bait shop. When crowds started getting big, they wheeled out a little Weber grill and started cooking some hot dogs, but it is not the ideal situation. You're going to want to probably prepare your own food and bring it with you and be ready, especially drinks, maybe a little cooler with some ice. It can get hot, and you're going to be there, could be there quite a long time. My final recommendation would be get yourself or bring or buy a pair of binoculars. We did not think of this, we forgot this, and so we ended up picking up a pair of binoculars after our first day there, and it was great to have them. And I'll give you a little tip on that. If you're coming in from either of the two airports, you're going to go through this little town right before you cross over the bridge to South Padre Island. You're going to go through a little town called Port Isabel, and on the right hand side as you come into Port Isabel, there's a Walmart there. So that's where we stocked up on all our snacks, our food. We bought umbrellas there. We bought a nice little pair of binoculars there. So just a good tip to keep in mind, especially if you fly in and can't bring a lot of stuff with you. If you can't bring chairs, I highly recommend you just swing into the Walmart and get some comfortable chairs to sit in for the day, because it could be a long event. Okay, next let's talk about wanting to go actually see the rocket up close, which you can do. It's fantastic. There's a road probably 100 or 200 yards from where the rocket actually sits on the pad. Plus there's the same road, this Texas State 4 drives right past the assembly and manufacturing facility, so you can see all the other serial number prototypes that they're working on. It's a great thing, you should definitely do it. But keep in mind that because there isn't a direct road between South Padre and Boca Chica, you will have to drive inland almost a half an hour and then kind of cross over and then drive back out approximately a half an hour. So it's roughly an hour-long trip from South Padre Island to the Boca Chica SpaceX facilities. And as we talked about before, any day where something's going on, a launch, a wet dress rehearsal, a static fire, they're going to shut this road down, and they're going to shut this road down about 15 miles from the launch location. But that still means you're probably going to have to drive 30 or 40 minutes from South Padre Island before you get stopped by the police. So fortunately, Cameron County has put a great website up, and I'm going to link to it in the description, and you should definitely check this out because they detail all the road closures. They tell you what days they're closing the roads, what hours they're closing roads. Typically on launch or wet dress rehearsal days, it's going to be 8 to 5 for that whole day because the launches tend to be daytime launches. However, I will give you another key tip. We drove over one morning expecting and hoping to get in before the road closure that was indicated on the website for 8 a.m. We showed up about 7 and the road was already closed. And the officer on duty, real nice guy, told us that on launch this particular day they had shut it down at 6. So obviously what's on the website is not law. They're going to close it down when they feel like it. And I wouldn't plan on going early in the morning on a launch day. I talked to a guy on the beach the next day, and he drove in from Illinois, and he got in at 4:30 in the morning, and he was able to get down there and see it. but he said on his way out at 5 o'clock they were already closing the road on launch day. So kind of take what you see on the Cameron County website with a grain of salt, and don't really plan on going down there the morning of a launch. Much better is to go in the evening, either after activities have happened for the day and the road is reopened, or on a day when nothing's going on, or the day or two before something's going to go on, because you can drive right past the rocket. You can get out of the car, park on the other side of the road. They just don't want you crossing the road onto the SpaceX actual property, but you can get a picture of the rockets and the facilities from no more than 100 or so yards away. It's amazing. I highly recommend you do it if you're going to go down for a trip. The next thing I want to talk about is just the experience of hanging out on South Padre Island Beach there waiting for a launch. There's a lot of great people. The SpaceX community and the space interest community is amazing. We met some super nice people from all over the place. We met a certified flight instructor from North Texas. We met a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. We met a corn farmer from Illinois. Fantastic people. A lot of people there know a lot about space and SpaceX in general, so you can get a lot of information. And just it's fun hanging out and enjoying the community and getting to interact with these people. Obviously, stay safe, stay socially distanced, and wear masks. And along those lines, one of my top tips is going to be just be patient. As I said, we went down hoping that the launch was going to happen within 24 hours of our arrival, and we ended up staying the better part of 4 days. The last day was after the launch, and we went over and enjoyed some things, but we ended up sitting down at the beach at South Padre Island for 3 full days, from 6 a.m.-ish till roughly 5 or 6 in the evening. Long days, but as I said, we enjoyed every minute of it. But you do have to be patient. There's not going to be a lot of information coming out of SpaceX. These are prototype launches. They're not scheduled launches. Things can scrub them for a number of reasons. There was a delay at 2 minutes in the final countdown on the day that it launched because there was an airspace incursion, and then followed immediately by a boat incursion into the water space. Things can get crazy. Things can change. So be patient and just enjoy the entire event. The next thing I'll talk about is some of the fantastic resources that are out there. There are some great people in the Boca Chica and South Padre Island area who run webcams that are running 24/7 that point at the launch facilities and at the assembly facilities. I'm going to link to all those sources down in the description. One of them off the top of my head is Lab Padre. We spent a lot of time watching their live feeds to keep us updated on what was going on. Those folks are knowledgeable. There's other people who come into town for all the launches. I'm thinking of Everyday Astronaut, do a fantastic job of broadcasting the launches live with interactive commentary. So NASA Spaceflight does a great job. There's a lot of world-class people there following the event, live streaming it, and doing discussions, answering questions. So you'll want to get involved in that kind of stuff. You'll learn a lot, and it helps you pass the time when you're waiting on the beach. There isn't any Wi-Fi that we found down there at the south end of that park. The 4G is pretty good, so we were able to stream YouTube just from our phones using 4G. But plan on that. Probably ought to bring some extra, rechargers or batteries for your phones, or the ability to recharge your phone if you can't from your car. So I'm going to put a link to all those fantastic resources that I just talked about in the description of the video, so you can find those easily. And last but not least, SpaceX themselves, while they don't do a lot of prep work and warning you as it gets very close to launch time, they have been live streaming it on their website. So if you go to SpaceX.com, and this can kick off just a couple minutes before the launch, but they will typically live stream it, and they've got some amazing camera angles from right up under the rocket to inside the engine skirt, looking down through the engines, and another view from on top of the rocket looking down towards the fins. Amazing. Definitely should check that out when you're getting close to an actual launch. So I hope this has helped. I hope I get to run into some of you guys at a launch in the future. We're definitely going to go back It is an amazing experience. It's a historical experience, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I highly recommend it. If this video has been any help to you, I'd appreciate it if you'd like it, subscribe. That will help get the word out to other people. Thanks so much for your time, and go SpaceX.